night after a early bird special. Now we've got a late night lights out special with the future governor of Utah. We want to announce tonight, James R. back with us on a Tuesday night. We normally have him on a Monday night, but I had a little scheduling mix up last night. But we got him on tonight. But it's good to see you tonight. How are you? So good to hear you coming to the States soon, and proud of you. And just love meeting you and Tina last year for the first time. And we've been friends for a long time, my friend. And always a pleasure. That's all I can say. Always a pleasure.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris. Good to be here. Yeah, I can't wait to get there. I got to take a kind of a side trip here tomorrow. Just going to be a quick hit in and out, but kind of get the lay of the land, see what's what, find the good Mexican restaurant, something that I have all the time. See how that goes.
Well, hey, if the Mormons know anything out there, they know Mexican restaurants, right? So, I mean, we're just saying, I don't know what they know. Hey, man, listen, so much to talk about tonight. I want to start out to get your take on these ungodly protests that have just shocked the country. But, James, I was looking at the headlines tonight on Gateway Pundit and Breitbart both, and it's not just America, man. France is erupting with this stuff. It's all over Europe. It seems that these are coordinated things that are going on in our nation, especially with these colleges. Even my home state of Georgia, the University of Georgia today, police had to arrest people, Vanderbilt here in Tennessee. So it's not just the liberal Northeast schools that are seeing this thing. This is erupting even in the South, even at these conservative colleges. From your perch, man, what's your thoughts on all this? These kids, just a bunch of punk thugs to me, but I mean, look, they're dangerous because the Jewish students are scared to walk the streets, and it's not. Let me just say it like this before I let you have it. I understand the argument, and I've listened to a lot of pundits today try to walk this fine line between First Amendment rights and the right to free speech, peaceful protesting, and then danger. I think this has crossed into a level of a bodily threat, a human threat to another race. And when that takes place, you can take your First Amendment rights and shove it up your keister because that's no longer the First Amendment. Am I right on that?
Sorry about that. I couldn't get my mic unmuted, man. But no, of course you're right. And this has been determined by all of rights that Americans enjoy for a very long time. And it goes to the theory, your rights end where mine begin. You're causing violence to somebody's property. Your rights are over right then.
Right.
And that's what they're doing. You're blocking the free access of other Americans to do what they want to do. Your rights are over. That's it. These are bright lines that these people are breaking. These are not just like, well, maybe it's okay. No, there's no maybe about it. They have crossed the red lines of what is right and what is wrong, simply. They're doing it at these college campuses in what appears to be a very coordinated way. And the reason I say that is because you can see the videos. Like, they got the same tents at all of these places. They got the same agitators leading the crowds. Right. They got the same instruction plan. They're saying the same things. And it's more than just a simple slogan like Free Palestine. It's ridiculous stuff like, we demand the university divest itself of Jewish investment. You're like, what?
Yeah.
This is something that can hearken us back to the actual summer of love. I mean, we make a lot of comparisons to the summer where basically Antifa and BLM burnt down American cities. But the real summer of love stuff that was happening where the hippies were having sex on the White House lawn, like that stuff had places like, the big Kent State controversy where, students were being shot. Okay. Right. So this is not a small potatoes type of thing. This is the attempted extortion of America.
Well, I heard the comparisons made today to Kent State, and James, how close are we to that? Because, I mean, look, at some point, some kid is going to do something stupid. And look, you're dealing with 18, 19, 20-year-olds for the most part. I know that there are probably some older, stupid adults in this that are agitating it, and they're in there too. But you know how kids are. Kids are going to do dumb, blank stuff when they start doing this stuff. Somebody's going to accidentally bring a gun to one of these things, get shot, and Brady, this thing could blow up into an all-out. I mean, you're hitting on something tonight. I hope people grasp it, man. It's as dangerous waters we're traveling in. But look, the colleges could stop this crap if they wanted to. The way I look at it is this, and I may be naive about this, and may be wrong. The colleges seem to be handcuffed. I don't know if it's political correctness. I don't know if it's just stupidity. I don't know if it's these left-wing presidents, these left-leaning presidents have almost a little piece of them that they're almost agreeing with these protesters, which is even worse, and they don't want to stop it. But do you not lay it at the foot of the colleges that could put an end to this? Now, there are some colleges that have called the police. I understand tonight Columbia finally broke down and finally had the cops come out and try to address these protesters that have not given up their territory. But, James, for the most part, these colleges let these kids do what they want to do, and you're basically giving fuel to the fire and telling the anarchists, burn my college down.
Oh, 100%. This is leadership at the top. 100%, because there's plenty of universities that aren't tolerating it, including famously right now, that's breaking news today, down in Florida,
yes,
where they started shooting tear gas at these guys.
Exactly.
They're like, nah, we ain't messing around, bro. You ain't setting up an illegal encampment down here. So, you know, again, we are at the FAFO stage in America, right? Like, you either are on one side or not. It's pretty cut and dry. So, you know, it's, I mean, I don't know what much more to say about it other than the fact that these liberal university professors are eating their own. And I'm glad about that, to be honest with you. I mean, think about the position that Joe Biden is in already before this happened, where he's going to lose 30% of his base of support,
right,
no matter what he does.
That's exactly right.
Because he's right now losing the Middle Eastern support, the Free Palestine peacenik hippie support, or he loses his Jewish support. Guess what? Like, he's already made that bed. The Jews are gone, and now the Middle Eastern Free Palestines are probably going to be gone. Exactly. So it's like, yeah, keep making that mess, boy. Keep making that mess. You guys, we warned these people when they started down these paths that they were eventually going to realize that the laws, the rules, the things that they keep trying to do to us, we're going to be turned against them, and we're watching it happen. It might be slow, but it's happening.
I wanted to change course a little bit on you tonight, and I'm with you, but I mean, it's all you can. I mean, look, I will tell you this. I know this much. If my youngin', and I got 3 older boys, I got 3 adult kids. I'll say this, and we'll move on from this. I would beat their ass. I don't care how old they are. I would have my car en route to those colleges tonight. If I knew my kid was up there doing this stuff, James, they would not be doing it. I'm serious. I lay it at the parents too. It's not just these college leaders. I mean, I blame the college, but I blame these kids' parents. You know, this is why if you don't discipline a child when they're young and you let them get away with spitting on you at 10 or giving you the, you know, just screaming at you when they're 5 or 6 without discipline, they're giving you the finger at 10, and then at 18 they're doing what these kids are doing now. And I mean, I'll just let that be for right now. But a lot of it's at the parents. But I do want to ask you another. Go ahead. Hey, you want to add to that?
Well, yeah. Do you remember that meme, the video where the mom goes into the Black Lives Matter,
yeah,
grabs that kid by the scruff of the neck? Yeah, that's exactly. I would not only beat my kid, I would beat him on national television, and let that be a lesson to all of you.
Yes, I would. Yeah, and I would post it on YouTube. I'd go find their Facebook pages, and I'd say, I'm going to post this crap on your Facebook page, kid. All your friends are going to see you getting beat as a 21-year-old by your 59-year-old dad, you know. Hey, I got to ask you a question. Another breaking news story tonight. Trump interviews with Time Magazine, and I was a little shocked by this. He sort of tore into Bibi and is acting like that Israel was aware or had a lot of failures about this October the 7th thing. And James, you know, the way I look at it, when these things happen, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback after the fact. I like President Trump. I love President Trump. This is nothing against him, but I think it's sort of a cheap shot to try to claim that, well, if I would have been in office, this wouldn't have happened, which I tend to agree with that, but for different reasons of what Trump's saying. I don't think Bibi Netanyahu, you know, maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but it's like our 9/11, James. We missed a lot of dots. We missed a lot of intelligence that probably could have prevented 9/11. We as a nation, look, we have failures in intelligence. We do. And hell, you go back to World War II. If you've seen any documentary about Pearl Harbor, there were numerous flags, red flags, that the Japanese were going to attack us at Pearl Harbor, and our bureaucrats in D.C. sit on their butts and didn't do anything about it. They wouldn't believe the reports coming out of Hawaii. It's just part of life. And when you're dealing with evil organizations like Hamas and you're dealing with these terrorist groups, I don't know what Bibi Netanyahu could have done to prevent this, James. Look, I don't think, you know, if you look at the Yom Kippur War 73, Golda Meir got caught flat-footed, and Israel, you know, got caught flat-footed October the 7th of 2023 in another Yom Kippur attack. And I don't think it's helpful. I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't know why Trump would do it at this point. I don't know who it helps. I don't think it helps him, and it sure don't help Bibi, but it's not helping too many people. But I'm just curious, because you see things sometimes a little differently than I do on this, and I'm just curious what your take is on that.
Yeah, so let me first clarify that I have not read the article, so I'm basing what I'm about to say on what you just said. And I'm only going to touch on this subject from that perspective that you just laid out, which is I see things a lot of times other people don't. And so this actually does help Trump from just what you stated, because there is a political thing that has been happening out there where basically the state of Israel and support for Israel is being seen as a conundrum, a Gordian knot of political wishy-washiness everywhere, right? It's easy for your audience and my audience to simply say, I stand with Israel. What that actually looks like in practice is where all the complications tend to come in. For example, everybody in the same audience that says, I stand with Israel, is pretty mad at Mike Johnson for getting a bill to go through that funded Ukraine and Israel.
That's right.
So, right, it's complicated. And so what's been being complicated against Trump is that there's this narrative out there that basically, oh, if Donald Trump were in office, we'd be sending Israel even more money, right? And so in that essence of the people, and again, let me go, I don't even want to address the crazies, to be honest with you, because there are crazy people out there that like are overboard, anti-Jewish. We're watching it happen at the universities right now.
Right.
And some of those people seem to be voices that are somehow on the right or on our side of the aisle. And so those crazy people keep trying to sell these also weird narratives about Donald Trump, that he's a Zionist. And you're like, well, you don't even know what that means. You don't even know what the term being a Zionist even means, but you throw it out there like a pejorative all the time. And so, you know, from a political lens of seeing, well, how does this position Donald Trump? I don't think it does the damage that a lot of people are going to think it does. And at the same time, it kind of gives him a little bit of distance do things, because again, what is everybody harping on Donald Trump for? You know, Donald Trump said, I'll end this war the day I'm sworn in as president. Before then, I'll end this war right after I win the election with a phone call. And I've outlined that before of how that would look like and what it would look like. There's more and more people chiming in on that to show how that would happen, because you can financially pressurize the situation. But that being said, those are issues that have to be addressed from a campaign point of view, where people are trying to box Donald Trump in so that he can't make that phone call, so that he doesn't have the leverage that he needs in order to end that war. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Absolutely, it does. I do want to ask you a question. Do you think that I know this? It's going to be an elementary question. I mean, it's sort of one of those questions. You know, you'd probably say, McDonald, why would you even ask something like this thing? But it's just out of morbid curiosity. Do you think that Trump is still holding a grudge against Bibi for the comments he made to Joe Biden after the 2020 election, and he didn't really stand up for Trump during all that brouhaha after we thought what had happened in 2020?
That's a great question, because that's possible. It's absolutely possible. Hey, you weren't there for me. Why should I be there for you? This is how it works. All right. So, you know, it's possible.
What's your gut on that? Do you think it is, or do you think it's just Trump being Trump?
No, I think it's just Trump being Trump, and I think that, you know, it's a very complicated issue. I think that as we've outlined, like, you know, look, the one thing that's for certain is that the way the world is not the way we wish it would be.
So true.
And that often translates into things like, you know, Israel, there's no two-state solution. It's Israel. The American first point of view, it's Israel, right? Your whole audience, it's Israel. There's no such place as this fantasy land known as Palestine. There's no traditional inheritance rights. I've actually heard, believe it or not, a Jewish scholar make the argument that the reason that this won't ever work is because the Muslims have made a claim from an inheritance point of view that they have the right to inherit the land under the Ishmael lineage, every bit as equal to the Jewish claim of the right to the inheritance through the line of Abraham.
Yeah.
So they're making an inheritance claim now. And I'm like, what in the world is wrong with you? And that you think that the answer to ending the Gaza conflict, and this is a Jewish professor, keep that in mind, is that the state of Israel should announce that the Bible says, the Torah says, the land is inherited by the lineage through Abraham, therefore you have no legitimate claim. And treat this as an inheritance claim. And suddenly the Gaza solution is there. I'm like, wow, do you live in some kind of weird fantasy world where you think that's true? Because
absolutely, man.
All of the other nations on the planet are calling for a two-state solution. Think about that. What does that really do to Israel, their position? Who stands with them in the Israel-only solution? Nobody. So it is a very much more complicated position than what we take or tend to take on these types of talk shows.
Our audience does, but I tell you what, there's not many people in America that does, and I'm with you there. Do you think that there's any truth to the rumor that they're going to try to put some of these Gaza refugees over here in America, or do you think that's coming to a hometown near us next?
I think it's a threat, and I'm not 100% certain that they would actually follow through with it, but this is how politics is. We talk about it all the time. It's dirty, nasty business. I think that there's enough resistance against what Biden's position is in the Palestine-Israel conflict that he's now threatening Congress because he has the authority to just bring in the Palestinians right here to America and create a real problem for America.
Yeah.
So what he's trying to do is get the Republicans out of his way on the immigration stuff at our southern border. That's what he's doing. He's pressurizing the political situation in our own country by essentially threatening America with importing Palestinians, which is freaking wild to ever think that I would say that. That is my real read of the situation.
I want to turn our attention more to home, but it's going to have an international question to it. First of all, let me just ask you, man to man, friend to friend, in retrospect, retrospect, and I've got sort of mixed feelings about this. I'm trying to reconcile my own feelings about it. Did we make a mistake in getting rid of Kevin McCartney for Mike Johnson? And do we run the risk as a party? I'm not a Republican. I'm independent. I don't vote party. I want somebody in there that's going to help the country, do right for the country, be conservative, and fight for the right values. Have we shot our cannon firing McCartney, replacing him with Johnson, and now we're just stuck with Johnson? Because, James, it seems like every time a speaker does something wrong, there's a push again tonight. Same Margie Taylor Greene and others to now get rid of Johnson, just like they wanted to get rid of McCartney. At some point, man, I mean, it just makes us look stupid. I mean, I'm just my opinion, but I may be a little naive about this, but I had a guy, Christopher Hall, on earlier tonight before you came on, and he made a great point. Governing is very difficult. It's complicated. And when you get in that office, I don't care what people may think you're going to be and not be, there's things you got to do. And I know people are seething and angry about this last bill. And like you alluded to a while ago, the one that gave Ukraine some $68 billion, Israel $26 billion, and Taiwan $10 billion. I mean, it was just, people got so mad and they're seething. They're wanting Johnson's head. He's been called every name in the book now. And I'm not saying I ever was all on board with Johnson anyway. But in retrospect, if we had it to do over with again, would we have been better off just to leave McCartney into the elections and deal with it next year than do what we've done?
No, the straight up answer is no. We absolutely did the right thing.
Okay.
I'm going to quote George Santos for a second, and it's self-serving, and I'm letting everybody know that now. I did a space last week, and George Santos literally said, James, you're giving a master class on Civics 101 here. And we covered this topic in a way that explains politics and political power to the average people. And that is where the failure is. The failure is not one of Mike Johnson. The failure is one of we, the people. The failure is to understand the situation going into it with clear eyes. Nobody had that. People were being led, and a lot of these influencers, by the way, and some of your audience is going to love the influencers that made them think things were true that aren't. For example, Speaker Mike Johnson is the speaker. He's not the House Majority Leader. Why is that important? Because the guy, Steve Scalise, that apparently nobody wants to be angry at, because why? Well, he took a bullet, he fought cancer. I mean, how do you attack this guy? But he's the guy that controls what bills go on and off that floor. He's the guy that controls the whip and tells the whip what he needs votes on. Okay? It's not the speaker. So you want to be angry at the wrong guy. And you were being led to that anger by the wrong people who don't even understand politics. They're political neophytes that barely can get out of bed in the morning if it wasn't for their campaign consultants. Okay? That's what I'm talking about, is that the failure to understand that Mike Johnson from the very beginning, and I explained this before Mike Johnson became the Speaker of the House. How? Because I talked directly to Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, Admiral Ronnie Jackson, George Santos, Byron Donalds. We had all these people in a space, and we understood, and I was able to explain it to my audience afterwards, that Mike Johnson was the compromise candidate. He was never Matt Gaetz in a dress. And that's what people expected out of Mike Johnson. That's setting the bar in a totally bizarre place. How could you expect a compromise candidate to be the America First guy? What we needed to understand from the very beginning was that he was the compromise candidate, which means he was more America First than Kevin McCarthy was. And that is held true, even in some of the actions that people love to be angry at Mike Johnson about. Okay? There's another thing that people need to understand. Nobody is talking about Kay Granger. In fact, just saying her name, some of your audience right now is go, who the fuck is Kay Granger? Kay Granger is representative from Texas who leads the Appropriations Committee. You want to know another name nobody here knows? Jason Smith. Who's Jason Smith? The single most powerful committee chair in the entire country. Why? Because he's the head of Ways and Means. And it's the only constitutionally authorized committee in America. He is the guy. Without him, that bill doesn't see the light of day. Nobody's mad at Jason Smith. What about Dan Crenshaw? Now, nobody likes Dan Crenshaw, but how come they weren't yelling at him about the Ukraine bill?
Right.
These are the cardinals of appropriation. These are the people that actually spend the money, that actually went to D.C. to spend money. Their entire careers, like Mike Rogers, was to go to Washington to spend money. So we have to understand the real place that we are politically. Why do I give you this lesson in how this House is actually working? Because had the people out here understood who the enemy was and applied their political power, you would have done two things. You possibly could have ended the entire bill by getting those key people against the bill, but also you would have been giving Mike Johnson a power base, because that's what he doesn't have. Mike Johnson right now is a leaf on an oak tree. The tree is strong, but the leaf's going to get blown whichever way the wind blows, because there is no power base behind him. We don't have an America First base in the Congress. Remember, only 20 people voted to oust McCarthy, so he doesn't have a power base there. He doesn't have a power base on the other side of the aisle either. He's got both sides compromising to him to get things done. So his position is very tenuous, as Marjorie Taylor Greene is showing you all every day, right? He has to try to navigate political waters he shouldn't even have to navigate, had the people out here understood who the real targets should have been.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Do you think Scalise was part of the problem with McCartney?
100%. They were in lockstep. Remember, there's two choices you make when you go to congressman, and everybody like Matt Gaetz tells the American people the truth. It's the same things we've been telling people all along. Your first day in Washington looks like this. Hey, your senior congressman from your state comes to you, or a committee head comes to you, and they come on, welcome to Congress. We're going to show you the ropes. We're going to take you out. And you go to this nice $6,000 dinner with them, and you sit down, and eventually the question comes down, so what do you want to do here in Congress? And you basically have a choice. It's either go into leadership or go into committee. So I want to be a committee chairman, or I want to be on the leadership. And once you pick that path, your path is basically set. And then they put you in touch with the right people, and they tell you how they're going to help you get along, and they're going to tell you how you get this going, and here's the piece of the committee you need to start with, and here's the chairman you need to develop a relationship with. And that's politics, and that's how it works. So all of the people on the leadership side chose leadership, which puts them in a position where they basically are just going to go along to get the main things done that need to get done in the Congress. Steve Scalise is in the leadership. McCarthy's in the leadership. These people were all in the same chain, working together forever. And so that's what, again, not understanding the civics of it and how it works makes you make mistakes of not seeing the relationship between Steve Scalise and Kevin McCarthy and how tight it was, because they were both on the same career path in Congress to begin with.
All right. And in not even playing devil's advocate, but I'm just asking a question, then would it have been smarter? And again, I'm not a Kevin McCartney fan. Trust me. This ain't Chris is in love with Kevin McCartney. I don't miss him. I'm glad he's gone. But I do want to ask, has there been any effort then, if Scalise is more the problem than even Johnson, is there enough, this Marjorie Taylor Greene movement of the party, that part of the Republican Party, that wing, are they targeting him to get him out of the power? Because, James, you got, leadership is everything. I heard John Maxwell say this many years ago, to influence something, you influence the influencer. You deal with the influencer. If Steve Scalise is the influencer over Johnson, it seems to me that you should be going after him. Is there any effort that you know of Is this group aware of this, or do you think that they're targeting their fire at Johnson? I mean, you've made a great point tonight, a great case, that really the issue is down below Scalise and Crenshaw and that bunch, correct?
That's 100% right. So the answer to the question is very complicated, but I can say this publicly. I know for a fact that that group is aware of where the problems are.
Okay.
I also know for a fact that that group is working in a way that most people wouldn't see it coming. For example, people never saw Matt Gaetz doing what he did to McCarthy in the first place, being able to get it done, and then getting in a compromised better candidate like Mike Johnson. They never saw the play coming. And that's because Matt Gaetz is a very good strategist. He is a very good chess player in politics, and he is doing this right. So if you want to know what's happening, you should be following Matt Gaetz and try to figure out, why is he supporting key people in key races? Ask yourself this question. Why is this Congress the first Congress to break with the tradition where you don't support the non-incumbents ever? That you either support the incumbent or you stay silent. That's not true this cycle. Why? Because of exactly the question you asked me. They are making plays and waves by doing what they're doing. And that's why Adam Morgan has a lock on becoming the next congressman from North Carolina. I mean, a dead nuts lock. And it happened from that viral video. And that video, by the way, was a year old. So that happened because Matt Gaetz made the play. And what's going on with the other candidates Matt Gaetz is endorsing are going against the establishment, like Brandon Herrera in Texas against Tony Gonzalez.
Yes.
Tony Gonzalez is going down in Texas.
Yes.
Follow what Matt is doing. He's undermining the base of power to the anti-America First people that are in Congress. And if you look at who those people are, they are key people that support the other people that are the problem. He's cutting their legs out from under them. So just follow Matt Gaetz and you'll understand.
Broader question, are you concerned we're going to lose the House this year or Senate, or do you think we lock both of them up?
No, in my opinion, we're absolutely locked them up. When you have the inner city Chicago saying better red than dead, we're winning. Okay. When you have the New York Pipe Fitters Union head come out and say, "Hey, look, I'm a Democrat. We're all Democrats. But fuck the Democrats." We're winning.
That is true.
Okay?
That is true.
So.
That is very, very true. If you're just joining us tonight, we have got the one and only James R., my dear buddy, and my brother from another mother. That's all I got to say. And I'm grateful he's with us tonight. I'm going to keep you about 5-10 more minutes. What did you think about this bull crap, International Criminal Court? And then Joe Biden coming out yesterday saying that Bibi Netanyahu violated human rights. James, they've never ever said Hamas violated human rights by raping women and cutting babies' heads off, but Bibi is the great international rights abuser, man. Have we gone freaking, as James R. would say, effing crazy? We've gone effing crazy, have we not?
100%. Like, these people are out of their depth. Like, but this is a thing that we really need to be paying attention to, right? Is that the side of right is under assault from every single direction. And a lot of this blame belongs on the Republicans and even we conservative and America First people from decades ago. And I'm going to say this again. Most of us are too poor to have done anything about it. Okay. But the failure to invest in culture is what has led us here. The failure to invest in education is what has led us here. The failure to fight in the halls of Congress to not let our country slip into this just disaster, this morass that we are in. That's why we are here. Like, we have to take responsibility. I said something in a board meeting I had with a board of directors I'm part of the other day, that I said, listen, I voted against what happened, but once the board votes, the entire board is responsible, including me. That's how it works, okay? If you can't pick your big boy panties up and figure out how that this is the direction that's chosen, now let's support the direction as best we can, you're in the wrong game. And that's what we did along the way of this country. We ceded education to the left because we were tired of hearing them bark, because we were tired of hearing them say the things and just said, you know what, you can have it. We're going to go over here and we're just going to make private institutions. And that's what we did. And then what happened to those private institutions? They got infiltrated by the same mindset, the same teaching, the same professors that every other public schools got infested with. And so now you see what's happening at these private Ivy League institutions, where people just ceded the ground to the left. And now we got Columbia happening. Now we've got NYU happening. You know, this all happened because we didn't fight hard enough decades ago. So now we're in the position where it's time to realize where our mistakes were. It is time to invest in culture. It is time for Republicans and conservatives to get back to telling the stories to our next youth the right way. It's time to get back to movies like the Independence Day that everybody felt patriotic and American at the end of it. It is time to get back to the John Hughes films that Gen X was raised on. The 16 Candles, The Revenge of the Nerds, The Better Off Dead, the heartwarming stories of what it really is like to go through those rites of passage of growing up. You know, The Breakfast Club, where every side was represented, where those stories are going to move the needle culturally, because that's what's happening. Ever since this fake Tipper Gore outlaw NWA thing that ended up busting NWA into the mainstream, and now we're culturally singing songs about a wet-ass private part all over the country, where you got 8-year-olds singing it, not knowing what it means. That all happened because we created the cultural rot. It is time for us to fix the culture and invest in good conservative storytelling again.
Is it okay for us to reveal that me and you are actually the actors in Revenge of the Nerds tonight? Is that
What the fuck is a brush?
I'm just asking for a friend. Hey man, a couple of quick things and I'll let you go. Trump's trial, any thoughts about what's going on? It seems like these district attorneys, man, are imploding. And look, you know, last time I had you on, you were very honest with us, and I appreciate your honesty. And I don't like smoke being blown up my skirt. It's an uphill battle for Trump, but it just seems that the momentum in most of these cases, the cases are falling apart. The Bragg case don't seem to have any meat to it. Jack Smith is getting his ass handed to him pretty much daily. Fannie Willis has got some problems. Are you more optimistic tonight about the state of affairs with Trump's lawfare than you were last time you were with me about a month ago, three weeks ago, or do you feel the same about it? Has he got a uphill battle?
Yeah, so I'm feeling more optimistic politically over the actions, because I'm watching how this is playing out. And I heard tonight in our space, you know, and it's been said many times, I hate saying things that other people say, but he is the Nelson Mandela for America. That's what the reality is. That's what's happening, right? It's 100%. Absolutely. And so, you know, he has an uphill battle and he's likely to lose. And I want your audience prepared to vote for Donald Trump when he's in Folsom Prison and make John Roberts go down there and swear him in at the prison. Like, that's what I want you prepared for. I want to watch it on national television while he's in an orange jumpsuit, be sworn in as the next president of the United States. Okay? Just bake that into your brain and realize that that's where we're at in this country. It's the same place Mandela found himself. Okay, and that's the only way this is likely to come out. Now, if I'm wrong, everybody in your audience is going to be happy that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But if I'm right, which I usually am, then everybody in your audience is going to be prepared for what we do to move forward, because it shouldn't be shocking. He is up against it. These judges, look at what this judge just did today. And here's the thing I posted on Twitter, which I think you saw, that I think that nobody's talking about correctly, which is that this judge just decided that if anybody in this audience reposts this show, you're responsible for what the content of that show was, unless you make it very clear that you disagree with me. Therefore, think about that. The entire social media business model has now been attributed that reposts actually do mean that you support the content, unless you clearly specify otherwise. That's what happened today. Judge Merchant decided to fine Donald Trump for 9 times, and I think it's 7, where there were reposts. They weren't even his thoughts. And then he violated all the First Amendment all the way to the ground when he made them remove him from his campaign website.
I saw that.
So you just got to understand what actually happened here. Again, Trump says this all the time. They're not after me. They're after you. And this is the case where it proves it, because that is a decision that you now can be held legally liable for a repost where you've said nothing and done nothing to alter the original content. Think about it.
Buddy, that's deep, and that's dangerous territory, James. That's dangerous First Amendment territory, because they are. And I do have a quick question before you leave. Does he have grounds on that alone? Does that get into the area on appeal, that this would be something he could appeal at some point? Because this is a violation of his constitutional rights to me. I mean, blatant violation. And Martian, or whatever his name is he not basically destroying what's left of Bragg's case to begin with? If there's any freaky 4th and goal, quarterback haul bomb, last minute stand that this thing holds up anyway, would this not be something that would be appealable?
In general, no. And that's the thing. Americans better stop relying on the appeals process here, because in general, judges are supported in the things that happen in their courtroom. They're given the deference. There's very little things that are viewed de novo, which means with clear eyes, right? So, but I use that term not to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but so that your audience gets used to hearing de novo, because a lot of these legal pundits talking about these cases, you're going to hear that and they're not even going to think to explain it to you. It just means with clear eyes. In other words, not influenced, no deference given to the issue for anybody. It means equal weight, no opinions coming in. And so it's a rare circumstance that things are viewed de novo. The rest of the time, the trial court judge is given deference to his decisions that he makes in his courtroom. And so this is not really an appealable issue whatsoever. The only things that are appealable in general practice are procedures and issues of law. So if somehow the judge stepped on the law, then there's an appeal there. But then you have to consider, who's the appellate court? Well, in this case, since it's state, it's the New York State. And all the way up their chain until you get to their top, which is not the Supreme Court in New York. It's flipped on its head. But that's why I say to their top court. Then it goes from them directly to the Supreme Court, who denies cert on this kind of issues every single day. So what does the Trump team left with? They have to charge a civil rights violation against the judge to have a chance to get to the Supreme Court, and it better be on rock solid grounds, which in this case it might be, because we're talking about the First Amendment and how they're stepping on his First Amendment rights. That's already being addressed by the gag order appellate chain that's going up the chain of command. So, yeah, I don't want anyone to feel relaxed. He'll just win on appeal, because I think that mindset in America is why we're in this place to begin with. The people that say dumb things like, well, the cops arrested him, he must have done something, no matter who that somebody is. And that's the problem, is that you better change your mindset and realize you're a criminal because your government thinks you are.
Yeah. Pretty tough place to be, ain't it? Pretty tough place to be. Hey, buddy, I appreciate you coming on tonight. I know you've had a long day with the other scope. And listen, we're going to get you back on a Monday night here very soon. You be safe in your travels. And we will see you this summer. And we'll see you a lot more on the McFiles this year before. Always a pleasure, James R. And, you know, you're my brother, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. Always a pleasure to be here. My own wife loves you more than me, so you know, I like
my best of love to the family. God bless, buddy. Have a good night.
God bless. Take care.
You too, James R. Thank you. That's a good man right there. James R., everybody. Everybody put some fire in that house for him. I know he had to leave there. I was going to have him take some questions, but he had to get on out. Listen, we're grateful you're with us tonight. I'm going to stay here with you for a few minutes. Cleo says that the Latin term de novo is used in the U.S. legal system to refer to something that is started over from the beginning or from the new. And it remains to be seen if that's going to happen. If you got a question, tonight or anything you want to say, I'm going to stay here for a few minutes. We've got about 15 minutes, and we're grateful that you've been here. Dennis Floyd says, as Mr. Huff said earlier, we all need to be doing something. That being said, when is Chris and James are going to run for office? Well, Dennis, you know, James is moving to the homeland here, the actual mainland. He's been on those islands, and just be patient. May not be this year, but who knows? You know, a Mac James R ticket, a James Mac ticket, R Mac, or whatever. We got to come up with a catchy phrase. That may be around the corner, you know. Me and James R wouldn't survive a day, because I can just see our first press conference. Because I'd hire James R as my press secretary. I mean, you know, he would be perfect. I would just tell him, be James R, be yourself. That's all I tell him. That's the only thing, that's the only instruction he'd give from me every day. What do you want me to go out there and say to him? Just be yourself. Whatever comes to your mind. Knock yourself out. Oh, it may be our political careers will be over quick, but it would be the funnest 48 hours the country had ever seen. Trust me on this. we would have them laughing all the way to China and other parts of the world. God himself might laugh at what me and James R would do to the country. I'm not so sure about that, but anyway. So soon, Dennis, that's a good suggestion. And we might do that. James says, Captain and Tennille, I've already taken it. Captain and Tennille. I don't know about that. The nerd duo. I mean, you know, me and James would have, the Revenge of the Nerd movie. Can you imagine me and James R being in that movie? Because I'm a nerd. Anyway, one night on Pirate Radio, I don't know if he remembers this. We were talking about neither one of us was rich, and I don't know if he said this or not. I can't remember if he said this. I remember him saying something vaguely. He said we're ugly too, so I don't know. So you know, I don't know. It won't be a looks contest, but as I said, it would be the funnest. It would be the funnest 48 to 72 hours this country had ever seen. But I tell you one thing I know about James R. And I know about I would do it too, because we and him would be committed to fixing this crap. And there would be no fools around James R. and Chris Mack in that White House. I can tell you that. And that's why I respect my buddy so much, because he don't tolerate fools. And I'm the same way. And that's why we love James R. And anyway, so But Dennis, your question is well taken. He's in the audience, so we will discuss the potential political run. You know, James R., what we need to do, we just need to do as a parody. Just put it out there, make us a YouTube channel. James R. and Chris Mack for president, vice president. We'll figure out which one runs for which, or just, you know, that would be fun. You know, put our platform out there. You know, and anyway. Alrighty, let's see what other questions we got tonight. We're grateful. Cedric says firing people faster than the Mooch. The Mooch is a scumbag, Cedric. I have to tell you, Mooch. We interviewed the Mooch one time. He was a jerk on the interview, and he was a jerk with Trump. I'm not a big fan of the Mooch. That's another thing. I love President Trump. I do hope that he has learned. I feel like he's learned some lessons from that first time. He's going to have to get people around him, but don't backstab him in the back. Half of his cabinet, everybody got up there, ultimately betrayed him. Except, I remember Andy Lauterbach telling me one day we were sitting in Edna, Texas, having a Coke, and Andy was drinking coffee. And you just have to know Andy Lauterbach to appreciate this comment. He looked at me, he said, "It's a pretty damn shame when the only person you can trust in Washington, D.C. is your son-in-law." And we busted out laughing. It was at the height of all this stuff that was going on with Trump in the first term, and he was about right. It's pretty bad when your list of people you can trust is your son-in-law. That's pretty tough. But anyway. Let's see. E-Spark says, what are your thoughts on the self-driving semi-trucks? Eve, I don't drive a semi-truck. I don't know. All this AI stuff is... my thoughts are, look, folks, it's this woke crap that this society has delved into, and I don't think the self-driving trucks are going to be any more safer than the ones with drivers behind them. And to be frank with you, isn't that not what they're trying to do? They're trying to get rid of the human element with everything. I mean, you go to a Walmart, you got one cashier and 20 self-help lines. And I get sort of ticked off, to be honest with you. When I go in these grocery stores and they ask me, do you want to self-check out? Do you want me to check you out? I'm saying, you check me out. You're not paying me to work here. And I mean, if I'm in a hurry, I'll go to the self-checkout line. It's principle to me. You know, you go into a store, you get your stuff, and then they're going to make you do your own bagging and own thing. Well, what the hell? I mean, no, I'm not a big fan of it. I mean, if you're asking me that, Eve, I mean, I don't drive a truck. I mean, that's good. I got some trucking buddies. I may ask them how they feel about it. But look, from a practical standpoint, it's just another effort to remove the human workforce from this country, and it's not good. It's just not good. And eventually, folks, and look, we're already experiencing it with the phone calls. You cannot call a company and get a human being without 25 prompts. And then, when you do get a human being, it's some 24-year-old kid in Pakistan, probably in his mom's basement. And I don't mean nothing against you Pakistani folks, because I got some dear friends in Pakistan, but you know what I'm saying. You can't understand them. And it's just frustrating. I mean, it's just frustrating. And you know, and I know, that by the time that you go through those 25 prompts, if you would go to a person the first time you call a company that could solve your problem in about 3 minutes. But it takes you more time to get to the person than it does for them to solve your problem. And that, too, is a denigration of the workforce. But anyway, Cedric, you don't have to retract your message. You don't have to retract your message. Anyway, Jeannie says the bear hat would be the campaign mascot. You know, Jeannie, I would doggone it. I will tell you what, I would wear the bear hat. And we got to get a hat for James R. I think he looked pretty cool in a cowboy hat. We don cowboy hats. We do something YouTube country worthy, nation worthy. As I said, it'd be the most entertaining 72 hours country's ever seen. But I know this much. We would not put up with the bullshit from this media. That would be number one. And that would be my number one my goal in life, I would put the media where they belong. I would. And The View would not be inviting us on their show. I can just imagine me and James all running for a ticket. That'd be so fun. I mean, we're a lot alike. We're a lot different. Our personalities are just the same. We cut up with each other. We're brothers. We've been through so much together. I mean, and he was with me. Look, James and I just don't know. He was there for me when I started out. I had no idea what I was doing. He helped me so much in the early days of this network. He don't only probably remember it. And just watching him and listening to him. And the first night we got on that Your Voice America program, I knew we'd be instant friends. I just knew we'd be friends for life, and we have been. And precious family. But yeah, the bear hat would come out. Jeannie, that's a good possibility. I would put that to use. She's laughing at that tonight. She's laughing at that. It'd be funny, that's for sure. Carol Smith says, I remember full service gas stations. Check your oil and clean your windows. You know, Carol, that's a great point. That's a great point. And again, those full service gas stations are gone. Full service grocery stores are gone. We bag our own groceries now. We check ourselves out. We pump our own gas. The self-driving trucks, self-driving cars. You're going to get to the point, folks, that they're going to, basically, there won't even be no need for the human race at all. And look, I'm not a big fan. I see these, you know, I hear about this technology. I don't really know a lot about it, but I've read these stories from time to time, just in passing, about these robots in certain countries, that people are bringing robots into their homes to clean and to cook and to do all this. And folks, this AI stuff, I don't think it's good. I don't see it as being good. It's a replacement of the human condition and the human experience, and anything that, to me, that does that is just not good. It's a sign of the times prophetically, but it's not good. It's just not good. And I'm with all of y'all. I miss the time when we talk to human beings. But can I tell you something? We don't do it either as neighbors. And James sort of brought something up tonight. He made a great, excellent point among all the excellent points he makes, and he always does a great job. He's the most astute political mind. But James has a way of framing things sometimes that we just listen to it and we say, you know, that makes so much sense. Yes. And he brought up the movies and the America that most of us were raised on, because I was raised on The Breakfast Club. I was a senior in '83, and I remember those movies of the '80s, and they were funny, and you know, it was us. They represented the America that we knew at that time. But I watched the country. Let's just go beyond the self-checkout lines. We don't talk to each other anymore. You know what we do? We text each other. We don't pick up the phone anymore and just call somebody. I remember a time when I was growing up in Atlanta, Georgia, that on Friday nights, it was without question, every Friday night, we lived in a little quaint little section of Atlanta, and my mom and dad, we kids would play out in the front yard. They would go across the street and sit on the front porch of our neighbors. And we had a neighbor all around us. We had neighbors across the street on each side of us. My play buddies that I went to school with lived down the road about a block or two from us. And it would be pitch black. I mean, we'd be dark, and they wouldn't be scared, me and Todd, to walk down there and see them at night. And they'd be on the front porch waiting for us. And, you know, mom and dad would talk. We would sit on our neighbor's porch and talk to each other. We don't do that no more. We've just lost all semblance of civility. And it's made it easy for these stores and this technology to take over, because it's taken over us. And again, where you can, and look, folks, y'all know this. I'm not saying this is not a preaching to the choir thing. You know this. A text. How many arguments? Think about this. How many arguments and how many misunderstandings could have been avoided that has happened because of a text that was misread that could have been avoided had somebody just picked the phone up and talked to somebody. Because when you're talking to somebody, it's a lot different than them reading some cold text with lines on it with no emotion, nothing, and you misunderstand it. Well, if you're talking to them, the chances of misunderstanding are reduced. Now, again, I'm not trying to be Dr. Phil tonight, but that's just a thought. That's just a thought. So, as Harriet Hunter says, those were the days. Those were the days. Those were definitely the days. Jeannie absolutely agrees with that. She says we would have a countrywide meltdown in Congress, and rightfully so. Yes, they would, Jeannie. Me and James are. Let me tell you something. We would. It'd be fun. 72 hours. Mr. McDonald goes to Washington. Mr. James R. goes to Washington. That would be it. Hey, I got a few things I want to run by you tonight before we get out of here. I didn't know if you heard about this. By the way, we didn't. Couple of headlines. They're going to let Trump go to Barron's graduation. Surprised that he did it, this jackass judge, to be honest with you. But the same judge that fined him $9,000 for the gag said today that he's going to let him go to Barron's graduation. I guess that was to save face for the crap decision on the gag order. But anyway, that is one good thing. It's interesting that I read this tonight, and I'm going to read the article. We need to do a news show. I'm trying to get to a point where we do at least one news show a week. But there is a good chance that ISIS is regathering strength in the Middle East. I have the story here on the Telegram room. If you'll bear with me 1 second, I want to find that story. It's not good tonight. I'm going to talk about gas prices, and then we're going to say goodnight to you. But a recent poll, let me see if I can find it. Right here. The story tonight's out of Breitbart. Islamic State resurgence. 4 Assad troops are killed in a Syrian ambush. An organization tracking violence in Syria reported yesterday that the Islamic State jihadists killed 4 of dictator Bashar Assad's soldiers in an attack intentionally targeting the military. The latest in what experts fear is an escalation of ISIS activity in Syria. The incident reportedly occurred in the province of Roga, which is the largest city, was once the capital of the Islamic State Caliphate, which was established over portions of both Iraq and Syria. For you Bible folks that are being with me in the morning, we're actually going to be talking about this, so be with me. It occurred in the context of growing concern that the eradication of ISIS from Raqqa in 2017, the Sunni jihadist terror group had found a way to regroup in the Middle East, in addition to increasing its activity throughout Africa and South Asia. I'm going to repost this link. I posted it earlier today. It's sort of buried. So I'm going to repost it tonight in our Telegram room. It's a good read. I would encourage you to read it. Don't surprise me. It don't surprise me. ISIS gained power when we left the vacuum in Iraq the first time. And it's gaining power again because we've had no leadership the second time under Biden. Donald Trump eradicated ISIS, folks. He literally eradicated that terrorist group when he was in office for 4 years. And if they're resurging, it's a damn shame. It's just a shame. And they shouldn't be, but they are. It does not bode well for the Middle East. It does not bode well for Christians in that part of the world. It does not bode well for anybody. And I guarantee you the Syrian government's taking notice of it tonight. I'm no fan of Bashar al-Assad, but I'm sure that he is monitoring that, and he should, for good reason, because they are a kind of group that would overthrow his government. Cedric says, will Trump hold a rally at the graduation? Probably. Probably, Cedric. Probably a good idea. I would. That's exactly what I'd do. Good suggestion. I may send that to him. Let's see here. Carol Smith says, I'm not a fan of texting. Used to talking face to face. You know, we used to do that, as I said. That's what we used to do. We used to do that. We don't do it anymore. We don't. Lane Willard said something similar in Facebook tonight. Again, that's how our society has gotten. We have just gotten to that place. All righty. We're at an hour and 7 minutes. It is 11:40 at night. This was a late night McFiles special. And I think we made the right call. I was going to do it by myself. And I said, no, James R. would be a great fill-in. Now, he's got a space on Tuesday night, so he really stepped up out of the call of duty to come on tonight. I really appreciate my buddy. We're going to usually have him on Monday nights. He don't have anything on Mondays. We're going to try to have him on regularly on Monday nights as we get through the election season and all. So we'll have him back on real soon. Did you enjoy him? Put some fire in that house for him one more time. Did you enjoy the McFiles tonight? We've had 2 great shows. Christopher Hall was with us earlier tonight on a pre-recorded interview, and James R. tonight. Couldn't beat that. Back to back on a Tuesday night on this final day of April 2024. 2024. And we're grateful you've all been with me tonight. Listen, we'll be back tomorrow in the morning on the Faith Network only. And then tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, we will have a faith chat tomorrow night, actually, with Marcia Montenegro. She's coming to be back with us. She's the New Age lady, the one that warns us about the New Age influence. The faith chats, we've made a little program changing. The faith chats, the Wednesday night fellowship, the Sunday morning, Sunday night Bible studies are now going to be exclusively shown just on the YouTube Faith Network and Facebook and X. The news network that we're on now is going to be solely for the new shows and so forth. So that's a sort of a soul change that we're sort of immigrating in as we get to the end of this year. We did a lot of cleaning up today on both networks. You're going to see some changes. You're going to see some cosmetic changes on the YouTube channels as well. And I've been sort of derelict in getting a lot of this stuff done. If you are gifted in graphic arts and the YouTube, if you know how to handle YouTube and do YouTube things, please email us at McFilesForum@gmail.com. We might be able to put you to work. Can't pay you a lot, but if you'd like to volunteer your time and help us, we could sure use it right now. We got some things we got to get done, get this network up to snuff and get it up to par marketing wise and so forth. So just if you have that kind of skill set, feel free to notify me privately, McFilesForum@gmail.com. We'll talk to you about it and see what your skills are and maybe put you to work helping us here on the news network. But that's what we're going to start doing. So tomorrow night, Marcia will be on the Faith Network at 6, and then the Wednesday night Bible study. I'll be back here Thursday night. Now, as of right now, this is subject to change. Dr. Stephen Smith is going to be with us. We're going to be talking about the bird flu with him about a half hour on Thursday. We're going to have a doubleheader for Thursday night too. I'll be back Thursday night late, not this late, but maybe it'll be a 7 to 9, 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock show, 8 or 10, somewhere in that time frame. But we'll be talking about some other things on Thursday. Hopefully Brad Johnson will be back with me soon. I don't know what's on with Brad, but we hope he'll get him back. Cleo is coming. We got to work out the date, and she's going to be with me from down under. I hadn't had her on in a while, but I want to get her thoughts on Bishop Maury Emanuel's attack. I found out today he's going to lose his eye, sadly, and we haven't really talked to her about that terrorist attack down under and the things going on in Australia. So that'll be coming up this week, and then we'll just play it by ear from there. Got a lot going on next week, and we're going to be in studio middle of May, and so we're trying to get as many shows in as we can. And I will say this, folks, with the summer coming, we're going to be on here as many nights as we can, but there may be some spots that will be off, and we'll replay shows. But all podcasts do it. All shows go through the summertime. People take some time off, and we're going to take a few days here or there in the summer and get fired up and ready to go for this election run. Magdalene Rose is going to be back with me probably one day next week. So got a lot going on, a lot of things happening in the country, and we need you here helping us in this fight. And we appreciate you being with us tonight on this late night McFiles special late night with my dear buddy James R. And we got some new guests coming. Ruth Gudenheim's coming back. I forgot to mention her. And also Saturday morning, early, for those of you that are up this early, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern, Faith Network only will be in Africa by Zoom in Rwanda. We've got a blessed opportunity to speak to pastors from 7 different African nations. Saturday morning at 6 and Sunday morning at 6. So it's going to be a wonderful weekend of faith this weekend coming up. And we hope you join us if you can. All right. God bless you. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. Have a good night, everybody. We appreciate you being with me tonight. Thank you, James R., my dear buddy. Always a pleasure. Always good stuff with him. And we're very grateful for you. Thank you for those that give and help keep the show going with your giving. We thank you for that. We mentioned Natalie's company earlier tonight. I'll mention her again. Don't forget HoosierWarriorCoffee.com. Great coffee in Indiana. Combat on Brownsburg. And once the order is placed through our website, the customers receive the freshest coffee. A portion of the sales go to the McFiles, and we thank you for that. There's the website to do it, the HoosierWarriorCoffee.com/McFiles, and they will help us with a percentage of the proceeds there. Listen, you take care of yourselves out there. Have a good night, everybody. We'll do it all again tomorrow on the faith side, and then we'll be back here Thursday night on the news side and Friday night. Until then, Macadonald out for James R tonight. Be blessed out there. Good night, everybody.